Hello everyone, we're live again this week. Two interviews in a week. Unexpectedly rich, and of course this is the week that I chose to be extremely sick and with a frog voice and prone to occasional bouts of coughing. So today we have the pleasure of interviewing author Alisha, I think it's Klapheke. I'm going to ask her how to pronounce her last name when she shows up. And she'll tell us all about her wonderful fantasy world. No answer from live video guest. Let's try it again. Alright, let's go. Okay. Yes. Oh, no answer. Almost. Let's try that again. Approve ad. Alisha, are you watching? Because right now it claims that you're not here. Make sure your camera's on and that you are connected to Wi-Fi. Otherwise this won't work. Alright. Almost there, everybody. As usual, we're having technical difficulties. Nothing new here. Karim, hello, good to see you. Hey Milos, how are you? Just give us a few minutes, we're almost there. Not working. It worked half an hour ago, I promise. Alright. Yes, Kareem, very long time. It's good to see you. Or see you. Alright. Okay, looks like it might be happening. So, Facebook says it's adding our author guest. Adding, connecting. Okay, it looks like something might be happening.
Hello!
Okay, hurrah!
Sorry, that was a little bit challenging for me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yes, I can. Just fine.
Good, excellent. There's a bit of a delay, but that's okay. It's probably because of connection issues, so we'll just try to deal with it as we go. Oh yeah, there's a definite delay issue. Oh well. That's
Uh-oh.
okay. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
I have
we'll
really bad internet where I am, so.
Yeah, well, that'll probably be it, but that's okay. We'll do what we can. So Alisha, how do we pronounce your last name? First question.
Okay, it's pronounced like Klapheke, like Klapheke.
So
That's
why is
what
there
I
an H
usually
after
tell
the P?
people.
So why is there an H after
I
the
don't
P?
know, some kind of German nonsense. I have no idea.
Okay. Klapheke. Okay.
Yes. You just
It's
pretend the H isn't there. It just needs to be like a ninja H. It's not really there.
Ninja. I'm gonna remember that Ninja H. Very good. Sorry, I'm gonna be coughing in and out. I've been sick all week, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, other than your Ninja H?
Okay, so I've been writing since I was a kid, like most writers say, and started it more seriously when my kids were babies, and now my oldest one is 13, so I've been doing it for a little while.
Oh wow.
And
Oh wow.
I write all fantasy all the time, and I also teach martial arts because my husband and I run a martial arts school. So I teach mixed
Cool.
martial arts there when I'm not writing.
Tell me a little bit about the martial arts.
We teach Muay Thai kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga, which is the Israeli military self-defense.
Yes.
So it's really fun stuff. It's crazy and wild.
Yeah, that Krav Maga. I mean, that's what the movie stars do, right? That's the kind of training
Right,
they do
right. Yeah.
before. Yeah. Very
Yeah, you
cool.
see that kind of stuff in a lot of films for sure.
Okay, so what's the how does martial arts instruction or martial arts in general, how does that play into your world as a writer?
Well, it definitely influences my fight scenes because I'm kind of picky about reading fight scenes
Okay.
because I'm like, no, a newbie would not punch somebody in the nose. You would break your hand. So, like, things like that kind of bother me. Um, so I, but it also, it also can be bad. I have to make sure I'm not like instructing you while I'm writing a fight scene. So I have to
Oh,
like pull
okay. Okay.
myself back a little bit too. Because
Yeah.
I'd be like, and then you pivot, and everyone's like, we don't care. so it makes it a challenge, but it's a really fun challenge. So I think that adds to that. And also, I always have a lot of battle scenes in my books because I'm obviously kind of into that sort of thing, weapons
Hmm.
and all that stuff. Because we do sword and arnis, which is Filipino stick fighting and stuff like that, and we do knife
Oh,
and
cool.
um, so I Chinese broadsword. So I've done a lot of weapons too. So that always comes into play. So
Cool.
I'm
So
kind of
we had a,
violent.
well, okay, but this is actually part of the theme for this week because on Tuesday we had I was talking to Miles Cameron, who's a traditionally published fantasy author who does Armitsare, which is medieval martial arts in full medieval harness with
Wow.
um, with sharp implements. Like they don't really blunt the swords. Like I mean, they're
Jeez.
not super sharp, but yeah. So when you're saying Filipino, like, is it? I mean, is it dangerous or or is it all blunting?
Well, I mean, we make sure it's safe for sure. But I mean, there's always accidents that happen. But basically, the Filipino stick fighting, you just are fighting with like a rattan stick that's about longer than I can show you on the screen. But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, it's safe. It's just it can, you pop a finger. We usually
Yeah.
don't hit each other in the head too hard, so that's good.
Uh, yeah, but don't you aim for the head first? I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yes, yes. Yeah, but we're really, really careful with that part. But yes, you do, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. As a father, you know, on the one hand, I'm like, yes, tell me about the safety, but as a writer, I'm like, no, tell me about the danger.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, you mentioned that you started to write when your babies were just babies.
Mhm.
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and our third is on the way any day now. And
Ooh, congrats.
yes, and I'm also self-employed freelancer, so
Mhm.
I know all about this. Maybe you can tell me how did you survive?
I don't think I slept very much at that point. You're kind of in the trenches right now. Like, in
Yes.
fact, I don't think I wrote a ton when my kids were the ages yours are, but I wrote
Yeah.
when they were
Okay.
like infant babies and then skipped a few
Mhm.
years and then could write again when they were like in
Okay.
preschool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because it's hard where
So
you are, like, that's tough.
it's yeah. It's really hard, and I'm working at home now. I used to,
Mhm.
well, no, I never had an office. I had an office for like 5 minutes, and I realized that I hated it, and I left. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I was about
so
the same.
I mean, the best thing I have is noise canceling headphones, but
Hmm.
they're pretty fantastic at canceling the noise canceling, if you know what I mean. So I guess I just have to survive a little longer,
Yeah, yeah, you'll get through it. And then you won't even remember that time. It'll be like a fog. Like,
huh? Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to think about baby number three coming and what that means for book number four, which is supposed to be
ooh,
being written right now, and it's not very
ooh.
far along. But yeah, anyway,
It's all
let's
worth
not
it
talk about
though.
that.
They're worth it.
Oh no, no, it's wonderful. I'm not complaining at all. It's great. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about the martial arts thing. I'm just fascinated by it, and also because you tend to read a lot about not just the physical aspect of it, but sort of the moral aspect of martial arts. And the reason I want to mention this is because, and I'm going to get a little personal here, so feel free to
Okay.
answer this or not. But um, I was actually I had an agent for a little while, actually for a year.
I
He was
did
an
too.
agent. Okay, so you know about how horrible that can be. Yeah. Anyway, it was great initially. He was from one of the top three New York agencies, a guy whose name is actually recognizable,
Mhm.
young, very enthusiastic, said all the right things about my books. And the thing that was a clincher for me is that he was very open um, about practicing Bushido, okay, and
Mhm.
which is
The
you know,
Warrior's
samurai martial
Code,
arts, right?
right?
Right.
Mhm.
And he was very open about how I follow this warrior's code. And so I was like, great, you know, I've heard terrible things about agents, so this won't happen to me because this guy follows a warrior's code. Yeah, and a year later, I had seen no evidence of him actually sending out a request to any publishing house
Wow.
at all. So yes,
That's
and
terrible. I'm sorry.
no,
Ooh.
it's okay. It's fine. But at which point I promptly gave him the Bushido bye-bye. Uh, but my question is this: you as an instructor, do you see it? Do you consider the moral aspect of it to be something that's important in inculcating in your students, or do you see it more as just a physical exercise kind of thing?
Well, we do like to have character education in while we're teaching, because if you're teaching someone how to punch and kick and knee to the groin, you want them to be one of the good guys, right? Like you don't want to be teaching. I mean, villains are fun to write, but we don't actually want villains in real life,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
fictional only, please. So yeah, we definitely teach respect is the first rule that we teach them. The second one is self-control. So those are obviously really, really important parts of the education. And honestly, I feel like when you learn how to fight, you actually become a lot more peaceful because you know how much it hurts to fight. So even when you
yeah,
win, it
yeah.
hurts. So and there's something about learning how to handle your body that makes you more confident, but at the same time less aggressive. It's very strange. It's
Hmm.
hard to understand
No,
unless you've been through it. You know what I mean?
no. I think there's something to that. We
Hmm.
sometimes we think of ourselves as disembodied kind of minds. I think too often, like we set aside the physical aspect of our whole mind body thing, and it's not good, especially now with our and we're saying this on Facebook, of course, but with our tendency to get absorbed into screens and just spend all this time,
Hmm.
you know, sitting down in front of something that's absorbing every ounce of your energy. Now, I was a teacher for a while in elementary and high school,
I was
and I've
too.
noticed that. Yeah, okay. So, have you noticed that over time, things that you may have thought were obvious, like those lessons about respect and about self-control, have you found that you've had to teach them at a very basic level, like more than before? I don't know if I'm phrasing that right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's just personal experience. I taught elementary school for 5 years, and then I've been teaching martial arts for, I don't know, a lot of years. I probably don't want to say how many, a whole lot. But I agree with you. I mean, I feel like that this next generation, they have a lot of great points that the one before them didn't have. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of the kids I talk to are very open-minded
Yeah.
about lifestyle choices and about just and are cool with themselves and who they are and being different.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
at the same time, they do struggle with some basic things like you have a job and there's certain rules that come along with that job. Like your job is
Yeah.
student. My
Yeah.
job right now is instructor. And
Yeah.
maybe even off the floor we can be friends, but right now we have jobs to do and there's certain roles we have to fulfill. And I do see that that is kind of lacking. I don't really know why. I don't know if we're just becoming crotchety and old or but but I don't know. So
No, I don't think it's that because I can see a huge difference in the kids now and the kids 15 years ago, and
mhm.
that's insane. I mean, to see this amount of difference between them, it's got to be something. I don't know what it is. I mean, I think we're only starting to scratch the surface about what this constant consumption of screen activity is doing to our
Right.
brains. But I mean, there's something to say about it possibly even changing our brain chemistry, which is kind
Yeah.
of a frightening thought, I suppose.
It
But
is.
anyway.
Now we're going to talk about dystopian novels, but no.
No, yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're talking a lot about stuff that doesn't have to do with novels, but um, tell
That's
tell me
okay.
about yeah. Well, it's interesting to get to know the writer, because it's
Yeah,
not
for
just
sure.
because when you read the books, oftentimes the author gets lost in the shuffle. People
Hmm.
get involved with the characters, but I always find it interesting to get to know the author behind it. Tell me about your Uncommon World series, which is the one that I've started reading and that I've really enjoyed. Tell me about it, how it came about, and what's so uncommon about it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it started with a dream I had, which is so cliche, but there it is. And like that, the first main character in the first book, she just like I just immediately knew who she was and what she wanted, and she just would not shut up. So she is someone that has been born to like a low caste in her society, but she cannot stand
Mhm.
it. But like for all the good reasons and a couple of less awesomely moral reasons, but mostly she wants to take care of her sister because she's an orphan, and her sister's younger than her and she feels responsible for her. So she wants to kind of change their stars, so to speak, to
Mhm.
move them up in the world so her sister can have a healthy life. Um, but I was really inspired by kind of an amalgam of different cultures that I've researched, and I travel a lot. So that always inspires my writing. But yeah, I just tried to make magic that was unique, at least from what I've read. So, and I'm
Mhm.
obviously obsessed with the ocean. So there's always the ocean. I don't know. In like everything I write, there's the ocean. There it is.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're landlocked, right? So this is this
I
is
know,
something that
right?
is
Like crazy.
no,
I don't
I get
know.
it. I grew up in San Francisco, so right next to the ocean. Now I live in upstate New York, which is no
Yeah.
ocean anywhere, and I
I
still
don't know if
miss it.
that was
So
a good
I
choice,
understand
pal.
the well, the winters are something, and
No way.
right now the lightning outside is threatening to actually hit the house. So
Oh, wow.
it's
That's
well,
exciting.
it makes for a great fantasy, emoting.
Right.
So yeah,
It's a good atmosphere, right?
yeah. So you say you travel a lot, and that definitely comes out in the sort of in the setting of it. So what real life cultures, what real life historical time periods, what real life geographical areas inspired the cultures of your book? Because I'm actually curious about
Well,
this because I thought I smelled a lot of different kinds of stuff in there.
yeah, and I would definitely say this is fantasy. I'm not using anyone's culture specifically. It's really just inspired loosely by other things. But I'm a big history nerd, so I was actually studying the Mamluk Sultanate during the medieval
Oh yeah,
time, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of the area in Egypt over there, some stuff in Syria, but also I was studying some things about Mongolia at the time. So it's a big mishmash of a
Wow.
lot of
Okay.
different things, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but but it's just kind of an amalgam of a whole lot of different things that I took. I should have gone into anthropology. Like I'm obsessed with like culture and rituals
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
traditions and superstitions. So I always have all that stuff happening.
Mhm.
But I like to invent my own. So
Well, it comes out really richly. I have to say the salt magic is definitely unique, and it's some of the more vivid stuff in the book is when the main character starts doing that. There's even some Jewish stuff in there, isn't there? Aren't isn't the high caste basically inspired by Jewish tradition?
well, not really. Well, I not the high caste part because that was actually something in the dream. So I
Oh,
can't claim that.
okay.
But yeah, there is some stuff with the group farm, the way that
The
the
farm,
old
yeah, yeah,
farm is
yeah,
set
yeah,
up.
yeah, the old farm.
Yeah, that
That's
is
it. Yeah.
definitely inspired by like some older Hebrew writings that I was looking at and things like that. And I have a lot of that back in my family. So
Mhm.
that's kind of through that. I'm
And
such a mix of everything. So I I'm like, it's all in my family. But anyway.
yeah. Well, the Krav Maga comes across there, doesn't it? I mean, it's the old farm
Yeah,
that has
right.
the knife dances, right?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
really cool.
Little dagger action. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Knife
that was
stuff
very
is
good.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. Before I run away with myself, I do want to mention that your series, which we're talking about, is right now on sale for 99 cents. The whole thing, 4 books,
That's great.
um, and it's flying up the charts. And I've put the link to it in the comment section for anybody who's interested as we talk to go and check it out. But make
Thank
sure you
you.
go and do that. I've already bought my copy. I'm making my way through the second book, so yeah, go and get it. It's a lot of fun. I owe you a review, but that's happening. sometimes two.
Well, I probably owe about 900 people a review. So, dude, I feel you.
Yeah, no, you're telling me.
It's hard when we're doing this, like with a lot of other jobs and children and whatnot. So,
Yeah, yeah, and you know, and we're the crazy people who decided we want to do this independently without any publisher telling us what to do, right?
right, right. But I don't regret it. I love it.
Yeah, well, why don't we talk about that a little bit? I mean, us indie authors, we sometimes tend to get into a bit of an ideological bubble. Like we forget about the outside world, and we're always talking to
Mm-hmm.
each other and how about how great
Mm-hmm.
life is within this small bubble. And then occasionally, I'll talk to people who don't know about this bubble, and they'll look at me and go, "Why are you doing vanity publishing?" And I'm like, "It's
Mm-hmm.
not vanity publishing," and I try to explain it to them. Um, but every author approaches this issue of perception and quality differently, right? Because it was the case that 5, 6, 10 years ago, self-published meant really terrible covers,
Mm-hmm.
completely unedited manuscripts, and really
Mm-hmm.
stupid plot devices. So, how do you make sure that the product that you make is not merely different, but maybe even better than traditionally published novels?
Well, I'm not going to claim that, but but I do. I think it all comes down to having a lot of honest readers that are early readers,
Hmm.
and also finding an editor that you really trust.
Yeah.
So early readers for me are other writers, but also just people that read constantly and
Hmm.
have a really good handle on the genre and
Yeah.
on me and what my style is. So for
Hmm.
me, it just honestly, it gets easier and easier because I have like a core group of people that I can really trust, and they do not hold back, and that's what you
Hmm.
need. You know, you have to really, like, I think a lot of people when they start out, if you don't go the traditional route, you don't get like slammed.
Hmm.
But like I went that way for a while, so I've
Yeah.
experienced all that slamming. So
Yeah.
like I
Yeah. Yeah.
know what I need to work on, and I know like generally. So I think being honest with ourselves is the most important part, and being very open to criticism, because it's
Yeah.
never perfect when you're coming out of the gate. It's really far away from it. Even people that have written, 35 books, it's still, you still need readers, you still need an editor. So
Yeah. And I have to say that your covers were the first thing that stuck out to me when I first came across you. The the quality was really up there, and I don't know. Did you have a hard time finding a cover designer, or how was that just luck, or how
well,
was it?
honestly, I saw Elise Kova's Air Awakens covers, and I listened to a podcast that she had done, and basically stalked her artist, like in a happy way, not a bad way. Meryl is a Chan, and
Mhm.
she is amazing. And so I just made contact with her and just talked to her about this project, and she was open to it. So here we are. So
Yeah,
I have a
fantastic.
huge respect for artists. My mother is an
Yeah.
artist, and I grew up around art history and all this.
Mhm.
So to me, covers are super, super important, and they are anyway for the business, but also
Yeah.
just in my heart. I love it. So
Well,
thank
and
you.
that's what I really liked about yours is because so many people are going kind of the halfway. So they'll look at the sort of tropey stuff, and they'll do a lot of stock photography, which is cheaper and easier
Mm-hmm.
to do, and it looks a lot like everything else. And
Mm-hmm.
you know it has its place because it's effective, and people look at it and they know then they know what they're buying. But you went a little bit above and beyond, I think, because yours definitely has that artistic quality to it. It looks like a painting, which is really nice.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's all, she digitally paints all of that by hand. It takes her a good amount of time
Yeah.
because, she's doing all of it. And the reason why I did it is because I want to be able to, at the end of my life, have those books and be like, oh, I'm proud
Yeah.
of this,
Yes.
that I've created with another person, with a group of people. Really, it takes a village to write a book. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I
It does. Yeah.
I wanted it to be really high quality, so I was just shooting for the best I could do. So
Yeah. No, and you can
I'm
tell.
just lucky I found her.
No, no, no. It's more than luck, I'm sure. Okay, so we actually have an aspiring author in our midst who asked a question in the comment section. This is a former student of
Okay.
mine. Hi, Delia. She's an aspiring fantasy author, and she wants to know what is the most important aspect you think for writing fantasy compared to other genres?
Okay, so the biggest deal is world building, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, so there's two elements to me. So there's world building and there's magic rules. I think those are the
Hmm.
two biggies because you still have to world build in contemporary stuff. You still have to
Yeah.
know like the small town you're in if you're writing a small town romance, and you have to know the details of like the bakery they go to. So that's still world building, but in fantasy,
Yeah.
it's like a whole nother level because you're
Hmm.
inventing like the entire place and you need it to be kind of fresh, you know? So
Hmm.
world building is a huge thing, but for me that's my favorite part. Like
Yeah.
I love to Pinterest the heck out of that and
Yeah, me
research
too.
down into a
Me
million
too.
rabbit holes. Yeah, so like I probably do too much of that. But anyway, the second thing I would think is magic rules, which is really important and really tough to nail. At least I find it really challenging because you have to, like, if someone can do magic, like they could just
Hmm.
do whatever, you know, and then you end up with these crazy plots that make no sense and
Yeah.
their motivations are all off. And then you've got like Gandalf using the eagles, and you're like, what? He should have done that earlier. No, but
Hey,
just
hey,
kidding.
hey, don't
I
go
love
there.
those. I love them. You know, it's cliche to bring up that, but anyway, yes,
Yeah.
I love those books and I love those movies. But those were the two I would say would be different.
That's interesting that you mentioned the magic rules because I think this is really something that it's a pretty recent thing in fantasy. I mean, if you look at older fantasy, they're not really all that worried about magic systems and how they work. I think it might even be
Mm-mm.
something as late as Brandon Sanderson, who's got this
Mm-hmm.
whole series of rules that everybody pretty much follows now. And now, if you're looking at fan sites and Facebook groups, which we'll talk about in a second, it's like everybody is geeking out about the specific details, but the physics of magic and how it works. And it's fascinating
Mm-hmm.
to me because I came up into fantasy not from that. I don't like Brandon Sanderson. I mean, I've no nothing against him. He's just not somebody
Mm-hmm.
that particularly appeals to me as a writer. Um, and this sort of obsession with the details of it for me is something that's actually distracting. So it's interesting that you bring that up because for me, I would much rather have the magic be something wild and something uncontained and
Yeah.
something that's super
Well, I
dangerous
think
and
that's
doesn't have
okay, and
rules.
that's great.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's great. It's just you have to handle it correctly, you know, which
Yes.
I'm, you know,
You can't have it
you
fix
can
all the
totally
plot
do.
problems. Yeah.
Right. You just gotta like, okay, so everybody loves Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. I have like 9 things on my desk right now that are all Slytherin, Gryffindor. There's Hedwig up here. Anyway, I love Harry Potter, but you know, she didn't really plan her magic like at all. So there
Yeah,
are
that's
tons
true.
of little plot holes. I know, don't hate me. I love it so much. Believe me, she is way up there and I'm cowering down here. But
Yes.
seriously, like if you study the magic, it there are like no rules to it at all. So that would drive me crazy if I had to write that. Like I couldn't write that, obviously,
Yeah.
duh, for a million reasons, but for that reason for sure. And that would drive me
Yeah.
bananas.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating, and it's just really interesting to see how in what different directions fantasy is going, specifically with that emphasis on the magical systems.
Hmm.
All kinds of just really off the wall stuff, and just people are really. I mean, they're it's really imaginative and very interesting stuff. So
It's kind
and
of like music,
mhm,
like if somebody does something different with music and then everybody else starts spinning off of that,
yeah,
like it creates
yeah,
like new genres, and it's really like that I think in fantasy novels too. So
yeah.
it's kind of
No, I think
fun.
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So tell us a little bit about, since we've started talking about this, what is Epic Fantasy Fanatics? What do you do there, and why should we care?
It's a big group of fantasy nerd readers like me, because that's what I was first. You know, that
Mhm.
before anything, I was reading all the Narnia books when I was a kid, and I grew up reading just any kind of fantasy book I could get my hands on. So it's a big group of people like that, that have been reading fantasy for a long time or just started it, and we just geek out on all things fantasy, like movies. Which ones do you think should be made into a movie? Which book just came out that you know that you're obsessed with, that you read in one night? Um, and yeah, so I'm one of the authors that kind of helped that group get started, and was invited in there. So now I just kind of hang out, and you know, it's really fun. It's a fun group of
Yeah.
people. They're really nice too. There's like no drama, so it's nice.
unlike many other fantasy and other fiction groups, this one has a strictly no author promotion rule, which is pretty
Yes.
amazing. So you can't, other than the people that are actual sponsoring authors like you, and there's a few more.
Right.
Authors are constantly trying to like stick in there, look at my book, buy it, but it's constantly getting taken off. And I love this. Those of you who are fans of Tolkien, the main moderator of the site has a great device for moderating or making sure that people don't do anything
Oh,
stupid.
yeah, the
Um,
dragon.
he
Yeah,
actually
Smaug.
he actually has Smog eating people's posts. It's awesome.
It was such a good
Smog makes it
idea,
appreciable too.
like because
Yeah.
it like puts it over there, like it's not me. It's the
Yes, it's
dragon.
the dragon. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll put the group address also in the comment section later on for anybody who's interested.
That'd be
They've
great. I
just
would
they
love to
just
see anybody over there. I hang out over there a lot, so it's fun.
yeah, they just passed 4,000 people, so it's a really big fun group.
It's
So
very
highly recommend
positive
it.
too. So there's no like I hate this book, rah, rah, rah. It's very positive and happy, and people share pictures of dragon sculptures and all that kind of crazy
There's a
stuff.
lot of dragon pictures. There's a lot of dragon pictures.
It's a
It's
lot. Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, anything from like a dragon this size to anyway.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You could go Christmas shopping on there, man.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So tell me, I want to know a little bit about your writing process. Does writing energize you or does it exhaust you?
Ooh. Okay, well, I think it does a little bit of both. To me, it's always been like a really difficult puzzle. Like
Mm,
I want to do the puzzle. Like I love the challenge of it, like putting the pieces together, figuring it out.
mhm,
But it's not like having a margarita by the pool. It's different, right? It's difficult, but I'm definitely a plotter. I like to brainstorm,
mhm,
come up with a general premise, research way too much, and then I
mhm.
plot it all out and start writing. And then I usually stop at about a third in and then replot because usually the characters are like,
Okay.
I don't think so. So um, that's kind of my process.
Awesome. No, I don't you love it when the characters just do whatever the heck they want?
Yeah, yeah, but that's good because that means they're becoming real characters in my brain, which sounds insane, and I guess it is, but whatever, it's fun. And
It's
they
not.
they
It's
will
not
lead
insane. It's
it, and
perfectly perfectly
it's so
normal.
much more authentic when you let them lead it. So
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. Did you ever have an early experience in your life that taught you that stories have a real power to them? I like
okay,
to ask this of
so
pretty much everybody, and I'm very interested in the answers.
I have this like okay, so I have a younger sister and I have
Hmm.
these girl cousins that live in the Midwest that I love to pieces and I don't visit them enough and I need to. I'm just a homebody and I'm working all the time. But anyway, so I used to tell them and my sister like all these stories when they were little and they would just follow me
Hmm.
around and I just loved it. I loved telling them stories. And to me, it just made like their visit like this event and it was so fun. Like I loved entertaining them. And it I don't know, it
Hmm.
just like it stuck with us. We still talk about it now. Like not that my stories were good. They were about like Coke bottles coming to life, who knows? but it just kind of it was a neat thing because I could get things across to them that I thought were important as like a big 10-year-old, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it was
absolutely,
it
yeah.
was a neat way to communicate with them.
Very cool. Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite underappreciated novel that you'd like to recommend to everybody?
Oh God, I'm the worst at this. First of all, if anyone asks me the title of a song or a book, I will be like, I'm, I'm the biggest choke. Like, and I never know what else is popular. My favorite fantasy right now in my head is probably Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. But I don't
Hmm.
necessarily think that's underappreciated. She probably sold a lot of those
Right.
books.
Yeah.
But I really liked it because it actually wasn't epic fantasy. It was more high fantasy, but it was in this really
Hmm.
niche culture, like this island culture that was kind of a mix of a couple different places up in Northern Europe. And it was just really fascinating to me. So a lot of people that read epic fantasy haven't read that because it's a little bit, because it's the YA genre and it isn't like your typical sword and sorcery.
Yeah.
So that's one that I try to tell people about because I think it would push you into something kind of a little different and might be fun and
Mhm.
refreshing.
Yeah, cool. Very good. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for. So perfect. Um, how do you choose the names of your characters?
Well, I usually take a language or two and
Mm.
try to get some meaning from it, or at least the sound of it. And and then I check it on Urban Dictionary to make sure I'm not saying something bad. But seriously, that's you have to watch out. um, but yeah, I'm usually pulling off some kind of culture, at least the sounds of the language or the
Mhm,
feel of it, the number of syllables in
mhm,
the name, or I'll pick like a place that I've been that I think is really cool. Because Kinneret's the main character in Waters of Salt and Sin, and that's
mhm.
actually a lake. So
Okay, cool. No, that's very cool. And do you ever try to infuse sort of extra like underlying meaning into the names of the words in addition to
oh
just
yeah.
making them sound like? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't come to me fairly easily, I don't bend over backwards to try to do that.
Yeah.
But if something clicks, then I'm totally
Hmm.
into it, and I will try to do that because it's really fun. Because most people never even notice, but I like to know that it's in
Yeah.
there.
Oh, no, no,
Like in
no.
my
Go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're fine. You're fine.
No, it's the delay. It sounds like I'm interrupting you, but I'm not.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry about that.
No, it's
Yeah,
fine.
so I try to come up with stuff that either points to what their abilities are or to the setting or to something about their personality.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. No, and I honestly think that even if the reader doesn't realize that it is there, there's something about it that comes out. It's just when you're reading the name, I think there's something inside
Right.
that name that kind of pops out a little bit more, just because you, the writer, know that's in there. I think there's something about that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's something that we do ourselves as writers if we pay
yeah,
attention to that. And I also think that people know a lot more than they think they know. Like, I
yeah,
think the
yeah.
subconscious is absorbing tons of information, and you might not be able to, tell what that name means like up here, but back here it's kind of churning around. So I
Yeah,
do think there's
mhm.
something to that.
Yeah, very cool. What kind of scene for you is the hardest to write?
Well, probably I was just talking to Sarah K. Wilson about this.
Mhm.
About big epic battle scenes. Those
Okay.
are both the most fun and the most difficult because there's so
Hmm.
many working parts.
Hmm.
Like there's these people over here, these people over here, this guy here with this thing, and this is over here. Like there's just a lot of working parts to it. So for
Hmm.
me, when I write a battle scene, like some other scenes, I might not even like I might just edit a couple of times and then they're good. But battle scenes I usually have to go over several times to make sure everybody is where they need to be, and I'm really picky about it too. So
Yeah, well, you being the martial arts instructor, it makes sense.
right, right.
It's interesting that you say that because again, with this week being sort of martial arts week, I guess over here with my interviews, but
Yes.
um, yeah, with what Miles Cameron said is that he mentioned the fact that as far as we can tell from what medieval fighters talked, what medieval fighters said about when they were in war, actually the conscious part of the brain seems to turn off, and that you enter into
Oh
some
yeah.
sort of other state where the rational mind kind of just takes a break, and you start coming back to yourself only after you've killed all these people. And you mentioned how difficult it is for you to write large battle scenes. So I get you, and that's why I don't do it. All my characters go into that crazy red haze, and they just skip over the battle scenes, and
That's
there they
one way
are.
to
They're at the
go.
end of
That's
it.
one way to go.
So I don't have that problem.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, there definitely is like an adrenaline dump that they say. Like if you're going
Yeah.
through anything traumatic, and especially fighting, you're going to have that where you're kind of numb to the whole thing. And that's why in martial arts, if you take like a couple of classes, it's not going to do you any good in an emergency situation like
Hmm.
the wizard's coming for you. Here comes the dragon. It's not going to
Yeah.
help you unless you have muscle memory, because your body just has to do it without you really thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, that probably gives a lot of realism to your battle scenes because you seem to know what you're talking about when it comes to that.
I
You
hope
write
so.
your
I hope
detailed
so.
battle scenes, and I'll just write the red haze. All right, and we'll be happy.
That's fine. That's fine.
um, what do you want your readers to do as soon as they're finished your book?
I'm sorry?
What do
I
you
missed
want your
that one.
readers to? That's okay. What do you want your readers to do as soon as they finish your book?
Um, leave a review. That would be great. I also have a free prequel at the end of the books if anybody wants, for both of my series, the Edinburgh Seer trilogy and the Uncommon World series. So I wrote a prequel for each one of those. So if anybody wants to pick those up, that can be fun. I enjoy those as a reader because it always gives you like a little behind the scenes peek, like kind of before the story got started.
Mhm.
So if they want to pick that up, that would be cool. I don't know. Email me, say hi. I don't know.
Yeah, no, no, that's a good point. I mean, we were talking about this with Miles as well. It's a nice thing nowadays with the internet and with the social media the way it is for authors and readers to come together and kind of have a little bit of a conversation. You know, it used to be that
Yeah,
fans wrote letters to you and you would read the letter and you may or may not answer and you'd get, and the really famous authors would get bags and bags of letters, but it's not really
right.
it's not really a conversation. And now, you could just it's amazing the kind of interaction you can get. I think it's really nice.
Right. It is. Like we love it and we hate it. Like the social
Yeah,
media aspect of our lives today, right? Like
yeah,
it can be fabulous, but it also, it has its issues.
yeah. So, what are your plans for the future? You have any other series coming up, or
Ooh,
what's
yes.
exciting
I
you right now?
just I just started writing another epic fantasy series. I think it's going to be called Dragons Rising.
Hmm.
So it has a griffin in it, the last
Oh yeah,
human on Earth, and an elf, and a lot of evil mermaids. So
Evil Mermaids.
it's got a lot going on, but it's been
Yeah.
very, very fun.
How far have you gotten so far?
About 20,000 in.
That's
So here's
good.
where it gets hard, right?
Yes, yes. Now it has to start making sense. The cool factor starts wearing off, and you have to actually do something that makes
Right.
sense,
Well,
right?
and one of the POVs is completely underwater. So that's been very interesting.
Okay, tell me about that. I want to know about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So you have to think about like how they're communicating and how
Yeah,
sounds are like completely different. Um,
yeah,
there's a lot to it. And your metaphors that you use, like I always want to make my metaphors fit the culture. And when you're
right.
completely not even on land, your like metaphors are like, oh, I need all new ones. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding.
it's been
That's
a fun
fascinating.
challenge, though. I like it.
So the point of view is from an evil mermaid?
Well, Merman, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But he's
Well,
not the
fans.
evil one. He's nice.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. Okay.
No, no, it's fine. This is great. You know what? I just want to say thank you for braving this technological situation because the delay is actually
Oh,
almost 3 seconds. It's almost a 3 second long delay, which is kind of crazy, but we're managing pretty well.
I'm
So
sorry.
no, it's not your. It's great.
Sorry,
So
everybody.
thanks for doing this. Before we head off, it's getting a little bit late here, but I wanted to let everybody know who's here that I'm offering a paperback version of Song of Wait. What's the first book called in the Uncommon series? I'm just as bad as you are.
Oh, Waters of Salt and Sin. It's
That's
okay.
the one. Yeah, I'm offering a paperback version of that along with four other paperbacks and a Phoenix Crate. Those of you who don't know what Phoenix Crate is,
Oh,
so you
awesome.
can go back. We've talked about this in a previous interview, but I'm offering them as a giveaway at the end of the month. I've put in the giveaway link in the comment section. So anybody who's interested in having a chance to win all of those, go ahead and sign up. Um, the book is great. I really enjoyed it, so highly recommend it. It's a,
Thanks.
it's a very it's a very unique world. It's got some really great swashbuckling action. There's pirates, there's ships, there's oceans, there's salt wraiths. Yes, I don't know what assault wraith is, but it's scary.
They're kind of like white dementors.
Yeah, very good. That's exactly right. But even scarier, I think. So
Yes.
so make sure you check it out. Sign up if you'd like. And Alicia, why don't you just any parting thoughts for us? Anything you wanna leave your readers with?
Well, thank you for tuning in and putting up with the delay. I appreciate it. Like, I am like a cave woman when it comes to technology, so blame it all on me. If you ever want to check anything out, I do have a website, aliciaklapheke.com, and it's
Ninja Ace.
Klapheke. Yeah. If you want to check that out, you're welcome to. Thank you. And thank you,
Okay,
Nicholas, for
awesome.
doing this.
No, it's a great it's absolutely a pleasure. So two things: go check out the whole series, 99 cents only right now on Amazon, and sign up if you want a paperback for the giveaway, and maybe you'll be one lucky winner at the end. So, for me, that's it. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks with our next interview. After that, for now, I'm gonna go and lie down and sleep, and hopefully I'll get better by the end of the
Yes.
week. So,
Bye.
thanks, Alicia. This was great.
Thank you.
Bye bye.